Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. I am on the cusp of my throat feeling a lot better, so I'm trying not to overdo it, thus the level of my voice. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. The Bitcoin price just dropped by more than 4% within an hour, from $9,224 to $8,851. After 52 hours of ranging with low volatility and volume, the sudden drop led to the liquidation of $19 million on BitMEX and $1.5 million on Bitfinex. Typically, after several days of low volatility in a tight range, the Bitcoin price tends to see a large movement. While extended periods of ranging do not necessarily point towards a bearish action, in the case of Bitcoin as of recent, it saw a steady climb in its price with low volume. An upward trend with declining volume usually suggests that the probability of it being a fake out, being a large downside movement, is high. This one says Bitcoin just reversed and $8,400 is imminent. Binance coin price fell below $19.40. This one says Bitcoin price plunges $500 intraday facing critical 200-day MA support. And this one says EOS's price falls to $3.06 head and shoulders next. We had news about a day or two ago, which is actually the partially fascinating point, that there were a couple of places, a couple of analysts and websites who were stating that Bitcoin looked like it was preparing to have a major move. Not a lot of them said if it was going to go up or down, but a lot of them made sure to mention that the sentiment was actually positive within the network and within the space. As of right now, there does not seem to be any actual reason why this movement happened. I mean, this happened anywhere from 1 to 3 hours ago. The completion of all the first 5 tabs up here as far as the prices of the wider market actually going down. There doesn't seem to be an actual reason, especially after much of the market assumed, and many analysts and other websites as well, assumed that the prices of the cryptocurrency market could potentially go up after the India and South Korea rulings that happened just about 3, 4, 5 days ago. But at the moment, the market is down. No real reason why. I wonder if, and I mean this honestly, there was one website that I read that claimed that Bitcoin had to touch $8,000 in order for it to really bounce back and skyrocket. It was like the end of a pattern or something like that. Like this was the last final move down that Bitcoin had to. I mean, no one ever really knows. We've seen a whole slew of people saying that it has to be this certain way. No one really knows. People only have charts, and usually 90% of the charts are relatively incorrect. Anyway, prices are down, at least for the moment, at least for this weekend. But no one knows what will happen during this week. We've seen before, by the end of a week, we can be up by 22%, 28%, 12%. Who knows what happens or will happen? Anyway, let's move on. In news that was everywhere, the Commercial Court of Nanterre of France, in a historic ruling, recognized the leading cryptocurrency Bitcoin as a legitimate form of currency. They said the crypto community in France welcomed the court's decision. There's the Eiffel Tower right there. According to a report in a local news publication, the Commercial Court of Nanterre of France made an historic decision recognizing Bitcoin as legal tender in the country. The ruling relates to a case between a French company, Paymium, and a UK-based company known as BitSpread. Paymium loaned 1,000 Bitcoin to BitSpread before the Bcash fork of 2017. After the Bcash fork in 2017, Paymium and BitSpread both claimed that the Bitcoin Cash that was created belonged to them, of course. The court ruled in favor of the borrower, in this case BitSpread. The case forced the court to consider the legal nature of Bitcoin. The Commercial Court of Nanterre reasoned that Bitcoin lending is the same as any other consumer loan. Here's a tweet here. It says, breaking. France has now officially made Bitcoin legal money. Authorities have granted Bitcoin legal status as money in France, a historic day for the crypto industry. And I'll get back to that in about 39 seconds. The last few weeks have been quite good. Supreme Court of India, historic decision, the banking ban, South Korea, passed the crypto bill making crypto trading illegal within the country. One of the main issues that I have with this story is that it was everywhere. It was heralded as the third country over the course of a 4-day period that had legally decided that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies were money within the actual country. This is through a financial court, the Commercial Court of Nanterre. They made the decision that in this ruling that Bitcoin should be considered as legal tender, as money, as it is no different from any other consumer loan that might happen with euros. There is nothing on the books. There's nothing in the cards. There's nothing written in stone by the actual French government or the Central Bank of France or any other whatever, that Bitcoin is indeed legal tender and or the equivalent of money and or the equivalent of euros in France. So while the ruling is significant, there was also a ruling like this in Russia about a day or two ago where someone else was suing someone else, of course. And I think the court declared that in this case, because Bitcoin does have a value, that therefore it could be considered not as legal tender, but it is something of value, and therefore the person has a claim and right over it. If someone steals your car, it has a value, and y'all can also prove that it belongs to you, kind of same exact way, Bitcoin, etc., etc. So, like I said, I saw the news, I decided to read further into the news, and I read different websites, and they kind of all said the exact same thing. It was like this one court had decided this one thing, and therefore they had the say over Bitcoin within the entire country. Here's the actual article for it. Yes, so nothing has officially been decided by the government except for the commercial court. I mean, it still holds precedent in some sort of way. Usually other courts will then say, well, if they did it, we will do the exact same thing. But Bitcoin and crypto were already legal in France. The only issue with crypto in France is that France has very high tax rates when you're trying to sell your crypto. There was no ban. There was nothing really there. Anyway, that's the France Bcash fork gold money. I don't know what to even call this. Anyway, here's your article again, and let's move on. In news that should shock every single one of you, because I'm sure none of you saw this coming. According to a recent study, Bitcoin Gold market prices are being manipulated by a single whale who holds a significant portion of the Bitcoin Gold in circulation. Like I said, shocking, right? The Bitcoin Gold network was recently hit with a 51% attack that caused 2 blockchain reorganizations. The team of Bitcoin Gold developers introduced a new soft fork concept called a cross-chain block notarization protocol in order to thwart any 51% attacks going forward. The fork cryptocurrency, Bitcoin Gold, 51% attacked. Malicious miners were able to double spend around $72,000 worth of Bitcoin Gold at the time, like the last Bitcoin Gold attack, and they lost 18 million worth of Bitcoin Gold. Many speculators blame the hash rate rental service NiceHash for the problems. So apparently the other really interesting part is that if you've ever heard about the robustness and the secureness of Bitcoin, that is the #1 coin's blockchain, it usually comes down to the fact that mathematically and monetationally, not a word, it is very expensive to attack the Bitcoin network, and this is why it has not been done before. A lot of the news has been for the past year or so. I think I told everyone this before. A lot of the early developers of Bitcoin were biting their nails quite frequently, hoping that no one would attack the network around 2011, 12, 13, and 14 because the network was relatively fragile. Not fragile, but if someone had thrown about a good couple $1 million at it, they could have double spent, destroyed, manipulated, 51% attacked, whatever you want to call it, the Bitcoin blockchain. But as time has gone on, more miners are online, more people keep buying computers and are securing the network. I think it costs several, I saw numbers. I can't give you an exact one because it's not something that like stays at the forefront of my mind every single day. I think it's several $1 billion. And even if they did manage to do so, I think they'd only be able to do it for a short period of time. before the network reorged or re-something. And the point being, it would cost an enormous amount of money, and it would not actually even be worth it to the people who were trying to manipulate it. They would be able to manipulate it. They would spend several billion, and they'd maybe only be able to make a couple of million. Why would you spend billions to make a million? Therefore, this is the logic behind it. In order to actually attack the Bitcoin Gold blockchain, I think it only cost around $1,200. So you see there's a dramatic difference because one, no one's using these coins. No one is actually paying attention to these coins. No one's integrating these coins. No one is using them as a payment method. We've seen other days before when Bitcoin has a trading volume of $6.7 billion or whatever the number might be. Bitcoin Gold will maybe have around 11 million, 18 million. These things can be easily manipulated. So apparently they're trying to do something where they're going to secure the network. Sure, why not? Where's the other really important part? Yeah, so then they actually go over the same similar numbers. There's roughly RUFFLY, roughly the same amount of Bitcoin Gold as there is Bitcoin floating around. Not as many people are mining Bitcoin Gold, therefore there's like a bit less than actual Bitcoin. The significant part being, I think a large portion of it is also expected to be simply poof, gone, because after the fork ended up happening, the other Bitcoin that were also lost in the other computers, you can't really claim coins that are already lost. So I'm not going through the entire calculations, but they pretty much said that according to one company's evidence, or probably multiple companies, that there are single holders who hold millions of Bitcoin Gold at one time, and these are the people who are actually moving the market around. Like I said, this news was kind of, it depends on where you really look if you could find this type of news. The entire point being, we have now had, and even then, in the last 9 weeks, since the beginning of this year, only 9 weeks have passed. We have now confirmation, or alleged confirmation, might I say, that Bitcoin Gold is manipulated, the price of Bcash is manipulated and no one is using it, and the price of BSV by the actual creator is also manipulated, and he knows the guy who's doing it. One of the worst parts is, I know that sometimes there will be many people who will listen to me, and other times it kind of just falls on deaf ears. And there will be other people still out there saying, well, the price of it still went up, so it can't be that bad, because people put greed before anything else. I saw someone else a day or two ago in the comment section, and it was like, I just kind of like scratched my head. I was very confused. I forgot what I was mentioning exactly, but it was some other type of scam that was happening within the cryptocurrency space. And the person mentioned in the comment section that they hold no Bitcoin because Bitcoin for them is too expensive. And why would they put their money into Bitcoin when they could put it into, they named 3 other coins, and they're not even other coins that we've talked about in this channel. They're fairly hyper insignificant coins. But the idea that people still don't understand that Bitcoin, the #1 coin, is probably the most likely to succeed at this point is actually very worrying. And I'll get into something similar to that in a couple of seconds. Anyway, it appears that, first of all, Bitcoin Gold has been 51% attacked twice. I'm sure there have been other minor attacks that maybe not have been 51% attacks, but they've definitely been attacked more than once. And according to research, it's also, there's a whale who controls half the supply of Bitcoin Gold who's throwing things around. Yeah. And to finish things off, and I only mention this because as much as I am, I don't know how I avoided this. As much as I am into finance, as much as I am into money happenings and things going on within the cryptocurrency space, this one actually threw me for a loop. I was at dinner last night with a couple of friends, and 2 of them were from Lebanon, and they were discussing things that were happening within the country, and I sat there dumbfounded because I hadn't seen any mention of this. Typically, and I say that for a reason. Typically, whenever in the cryptocurrency world, I'm sure you've seen the news as well, whether it be Pompliano or Novogratz or other person or this guy or that guy with the face, whenever anything negative happens in any other country, cryptocurrency people are usually at the forefront of everything happening, and they're the first to, I don't want to use the word demonize, but they're the first to say, like, this is why Bitcoin's better. This is why we need Bitcoin. Look at that crap happening over there. For some reason, I haven't seen anyone talk about this. Not one person in the cryptocurrency space. For those of you who don't know, the banks in Lebanon have been going through rough issues over the last couple of months. I think since around the end of, I want to say autumn of last year. It says Lebanon's banks further tightened limits on foreign currency withdrawals on Monday, with at least one financial institution restricting depositors to a maximum withdrawal of $400 a month. You'll never know the person who I'm talking about, so I can not talk freely, but she was explaining to me that her father knows someone. Rather, she's, like I said, she's from Lebanon. Her father knows someone. This guy worked his entire life to save up this money, moved to Lebanon, and became relatively wealthy. I mean, he's rich, and had actually the equivalent of $2.5 million in his Lebanese bank account. And then one morning he woke up and found out that his withdrawal limit, I think before, was around $2,000 per month, and he could take out no more money. A couple of weeks later, I think it was also lowered to $1,000 per month. And now since February, I'm sure there's even more updates on this news, $400 a month. Imagine having $2.5 million in the bank, and you can take out $400 a month. This apparently is very widespread, and I was asking her and him, the other guy who was from Lebanon, were they able to actually transfer their money into crypto? And I usually very not cautious, because I don't want to seem like that guy at dinner who's like, well, you should have had it in Bitcoin kind of thing. But I made sure to ask. I was like, is there a way to get your money out of the country? Could you swap it into something else? Could you put it into crypto? Could you put it into Bitcoin? And apparently the other restrictions are that you can't actually take money outside of the country. So you can withdraw money, but you can only use it within the actual borders. I think there's some other capital controls. It's really weird. Like, you can't do a bank transfer anywhere outside of the country. Like, you're completely restricted from doing so. And you're able to take out $400 a month to feed you and your family and to pay your bills. I always wonder. No, I don't know. It's almost impossible to put it into actual words. There's so many things like this that happen around the world, and it's one of those situations where we know the fix for this. I honestly, and I mean it, I don't care if it's Bitcoin, I don't care if it's Ether, I don't care if it's like, I don't care what other crypto, I mean, as long as it's not BSV or Bcash, because garbage. The entire point being, we keep getting into situations like this. This is not the first time that something like this has happened. This is not the first instance where, oh, even more so. Here's the actual news, the news right here. It says Lebanon to default on debt for the first time amid financial crisis. They've officially defaulted on a number of loans that they had, and they can't pay back it's a large number, but they still cannot pay it back. It's a $1.2 billion euro bond. And they said that they have no way of actually paying it back. So we've seen these things happen before. I always wonder why there's not more of a rush towards cryptocurrencies, and I think a lot of it is just the word isn't miscommunication. It's just lack of knowing about the actual space. We can only all do so much. I can only help so many people. It's more of I think if more people understood what crypto is for, I think Bitcoin would be easily over $150,000, $200,000. And I don't mean that as like Bitcoin is the greatest. It's more like if people understood the prospect of not having to worry about a bank closing or a bank defaulting. Can you imagine having $100,000 in the bank and you can't get it out? Now imagine having 2.5 million that you've saved your entire life, and you cannot and will not get this money back as the bank is restructuring And also we've seen before as well, I'm not sure if it's taking place in this exact situation, but banks tend to use the money that they have deposited in their banks to actually pay off other debts, which means that other people who have those banks will never get their money back because that money is being used to pay off the debts. I mean, it's nonsense. So I hope that the world gets smarter. I hope that more people continue to pay attention. I even just major fluctuations in the cryptocurrency market. There's always so much that goes through my head. Like, so much of this is not needed. We have the capabilities right now, for those of you who don't know it, to have a planet that completely runs on solar. We know how to stop world hunger. We know how to have infinite energy, how to plant food vertically that can feed entire cities, how to end hunger, how to end most sicknesses, and also how to have complete control of our money. All the answers are there. They're not stuff that has to be created or will be created in the next 20 to 30 years. We have the science for it and we have the math for it. So apparently it is near impossible for anyone in this country to swap their money into crypto. I don't know. It feels like a train that everyone should be on, but people keep. I don't know. I have no analogy. I have nothing quirky or smart to say. It's very sad. It's almost devastating. I would be furious if my money in my bank account, if I could not access it. Can you imagine only being able to take out $400 a month? You'd be furious. Anyway, like I said, I didn't see this anywhere in the cryptocurrency space. No one's talking about it. No mentions of it. Everyone's just talking about coin superiority or how good this is, or that a whole bunch of conferences have been canceled because of X, Y, and Z. Not about the stuff that's actually like the really important things that are happening within the world of finance. Anyway, right, let's move on. I do apologize. I will not read out the Patreon names. I can feel my throat is like at its limit. Here's the actual market. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news as it was. The entire market's red except for Tether. Like I said, no real mention or instance as to why the market is red, what happened. I'm sure we will either by tomorrow morning, if not the day after, receive some type of a confirmation that there was a whale, that somebody was scared, that there was a huge sell-off, that this market did this. There's always an answer to something. It's just a matter of, at the moment, there seems to be no real reason as to why. There should have been a push downwards, but alas, here we are. If you buy regardless of a top or a down, well, there you go. I have to end the video here. I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a bit of news for the day. I do hope that you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it's absolutely fantastic. I should be completely better by tomorrow. I just didn't want to overdo it today, but I like making videos. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening, and I'll definitely talk to you all soon. See you.